Wife says husband killed infant daughter over jealousy. Anthony Cooper Adams enters the courtroom in Macomb County Circuit Court in Mount Clemens for his first-degree murder trial for the death of his 5-month-old daughter Aubrey in 2016. Wow. Khadijah Cooper testifies next to a photograph of her daughter, Aubrey, at Ascension St. John Hospital in Detroit on the day she brought her there and died at the murder trial for her estranged husband, Anthony Cooper Adams, in Macomb County Circuit Court in Mount Clemens. The wife of a 30-year-old Clinton Township man accused of killing their infant daughter believes he killed the infant out of jealousy. Khadijah Cooper testified Thursday at the trial for Anthony Cooper Adams that she thinks he killed their 5-month-old daughter, Aubrey Cooper, because he was jealous of the child. She could not provide specific incidents, saying it was quote-unquote a feeling, but said his jealousy was so prevalent that she kept Aubrey away from him. I never had Aubrey around because he was jealous, I showed her more attention than him, she said. She added, he also, quote-unquote, put his hands on me because of his jealousy. Cooper Adams was charged with first-degree murder, felony, and first-degree child abuse more than a year after he brought Aubrey to Ascension St. John Hospital in Detroit on September 5, 2016, where his wife also was hospitalized after she fainted 5 days earlier. He had been caring for their 2 young children at their home in the Newport Apartments off Joy Boulevard and east of Gratiot Avenue in the Township after Cooper was hospitalized. A jury began Thursday in front of Judge Diana Druzinski with opening statements and witness testimony in Macomb County Circuit Court. On September 4, 2016, the night before the child's death, Cooper Adams brought his daughters, Lacey, who turned 2 that day, and Aubrey to visit Cooper at the hospital, and Aubrey was quote-unquote playful and quote-unquote happy. Cooper said she noticed Aubrey had approximately 1-inch abrasion left of her left eye that Cooper Adams told her came from her falling at a second home they sometimes used in Detroit. Cooper said she was not concerned about it. Less than 12 hours later, about 6:45 a.m. the next day, Cooper Adams brought an unresponsive Aubrey to the emergency room. He rushed in and said his baby wasn't breathing, testified nurse Adrienne Gary, who was working as a patient representative that day in the emergency room. She said medical personnel immediately began performing CPR on Aubrey. He was pacing, she said of Cooper Adams. He seemed worried about what was going on with the patient. Aubrey was pronounced dead about 90 minutes later. The cause of death was not accidental, head trauma attorneys say. Gary said she accompanied Cooper Adams to inform his wife in her room elsewhere in the hospital. He did tell her and she cried and screamed. Gary said he cried and held her. She said, I have to go see her. Gary describes Cooper's visit to her deceased daughter as terrible. She grabbed the baby out of the bed, Gary said. She was crying and screaming. Cooper discharged herself from the hospital that day, although doctors have not yet resolved her medical issue. She said she was diagnosed a month later with lupus and low blood pressure. Gary testified Cooper Adams told her that when he put Aubrey to bed at 10 p.m. the night before, she seemed to be having problems. He said that he went in there, Aubrey's bedroom, and Aubrey was not acting like Aubrey, and he did everything the mother would do, she said. Cooper testified Aubrey cried more than other children did in her infancy, and she would give her a bottle and put her to sleep when she was fussy or crying. During her testimony, Cooper broke down and sobbed when she described Cooper Adams informing her about Aubrey's death. Quote unquote, "He came in there crying and screaming, saying something happened to Aubrey," she said. Her testimony was paused as she wept and wiped tears with tissue. Cooper also revealed she remains angry about what occurred and is upset at Cooper Adams that she refused to say anything good about him. She says she doesn't believe he loved their two children. "Do you think Anthony loved his children?" Defense attorney R. Timothy Kohler asked her. "Quote unquote, no," she replied. "Quote unquote, he never should have done what he did. And if he loved Aubrey, he would have never did that." The couple got married in 2014 and lived in a house on Bleecker Avenue in Detroit and moved to the Clinton Township apartment in 2006, where they live with their two children and Cooper's sister, Mercedes, and her husband. Although Cooper said they sometimes stay at the Detroit home, they moved from the Detroit home to rent it out to make extra money. They separated shortly after Aubrey's death, Cooper said. Cooper Adams remains held in jail without bond. The trial is scheduled to continue Friday. Prayers go out to this mother because she lost her child and she's dealing with lupus, and no mother or no father shall bury their child based upon the murder of the other parent. This is the face of a man that's accused of murdering his 5-month-old daughter. 5-month-old daughter. This mother has to go on and take care of their child that is still alive, as well as fight for her life and get herself well with her new diagnosis of lupus. Just keep your prayers out for this family, and hopefully he is convicted of every charge that he faces. Because if he indeed did this, then he deserves the maximum sentence that Michigan court will allow for these charges.